Morning, everybody. I'm going to go through some bacteria notes with you today. Please write these down in your notebook as I go through them. All right, so first off, we are going to be talking in this unit about eubacteria. And these are the bacteria that you think about when you think about bacteria. For example, strep throat is caused by a eubacteria, a bacteria that grows in your throat. E. coli is also a bacteria in the eubacteria kingdom. E. coli is found in your intestines. It helps you digest your food. Salmonella is found on raw chicken and turtles and things like that, and so other reptiles. And so it's important to always wash your hands because you can get that bacteria on you. Any of these can be good or bad. Well, some of these can be good. Most of them are bad for you if they get inside of your body. All right, so how do we classify bacteria? All right, so first of all, we classify it according to the shape of the cell. Some of this is review. We've mentioned it before, but I do want you to write these down. The first is rod-shaped bacillus, or round coccus, or spiral spirillum. Those are the three shapes that bacteria come in. So here's a picture. This is a bacillus shape. You don't have to draw this, just take a look at it. So this is what the bacillus look like, the little blue structures there that we're looking at. This is coccus. Sometimes they're by themselves, sometimes they're in groups or bundles like this. So the green, yellowish green there is the bacteria. This is spirillum. Obviously they look like little worms, and that is the final shape. So there's some pictures for you to look at so you can identify them. All right, bacteria characteristics. First of all, some of them have flagella or cilia, which allow for movement. All right, they have a cell wall. All bacteria have a cell wall. Some produce endospores. Now, endospores are interesting. Endospores are used for survival in harsh environments. And so when a bacteria is found to be in a place it's not supposed to be, or we like, for example, boil water, you can kill the bacteria, but they will leave behind an endospore, which can survive for long periods of time. And then when the environment is good again for its growth, it'll come back and be reborn sort of from the endospore. It can remain dormant for years. It can just sit there. This is a lot of times bacteria in soils can do this. And then, like I mentioned, once the conditions are favorable, the endospore will repopulate the bacteria and the bacteria will come back. So here's the basic structure of bacteria. You've drawn this before, so you don't necessarily have to draw it again, but I just want to point out a few little things here. All right, so we have the flagella, that allow it to move. All right, we have ribosomes right in here. There are ribosomes in all bacterial cells. They help produce proteins. The nucleoid is the region of DNA. You remember it's not surrounded by a nucleus, but it's just this region of DNA. All right. Then you have the plasma membrane or the cell membrane, the cell wall, and then the capsule. So it has three real different layers that are important there. Okay. Now, bacterial reproduction. How do bacteria reproduce? Most of them reproduce asexually. And what I mean by that is they just simply copy their genetic material, the nucleoid, and they just split in half. It's called binary fission, and it's very fast. So the chromosomes divide, the cell splits, and you have more bacteria. Now, occasionally they can reproduce sexually, which means they're going to be sharing genetic material between two different bacteria. This is specifically called, in bacteria, conjugation. And pieces of their DNA, which is called the plasmid, are transported between two different cells. This video is not working, so we'll show you that later. No big deal. So here's a picture of conjugation happening. All right, so that long red area right in here, that's going to stretch from one of the bacteria to the other, and that's how it's going to give a piece of its DNA to another bacteria. This is important because it allows the bacteria to become more diverse. And if say this bacteria is really good at not being killed by a certain antibiotic, it can share that information with this bacteria. So in the future, that bacteria won't be killed by that antibiotic either. All right, so a couple unique adaptations of bacteria. They are obligate anaerobes, which means they like to live in areas that don't have much or any oxygen. So they cannot survive in the presence of oxygen, right? Or very little. Sometimes there can be a tiny bit of oxygen, but for the most part, some of them, if they are around oxygen, they die. Now these are unique adaptations, so it's not all bacteria, but just some. Nitrogen fixation. This is an important job that some bacteria do. They convert nitrogen gas to a usable form for plants. So when you put a plant in the dirt, it grows, it's absorbing nitrogen, but it can't absorb nitrogen gas. It can absorb other forms of nitrogen. So how do you turn the gas to those other forms? Bacteria do that for you. They are decomposers. They are nature's recyclers. They recycle dead matter. Part of the reason that leaves in the fall, that fall to the ground, turn into mulch and stuff is because of the bacteria in the dirt. They help you digest your food, some of your food. So E. coli is a type of bacteria I mentioned before. It is found in your intestines. And when you eat plant matter, like beans, for example, your body can't digest that, but the bacteria in your body can digest that. And so it helps you get nutrients from that food. So there you go. E. coli is found in your small intestine. If it gets out of your small intestine and gets into your body cavity, that can be really bad. But normally it stays right in your small intestine and everything's good to go. Bacteria can produce flavor. Cheese, yogurt, and bread are all flavored by different types of bacteria. If you remember the video we watched a couple weeks ago on bacteria, the sourdough starter, the reason sourdough is sour is because of bacteria. Then there's cyanobacteria, and cyanobacteria are a type of bacteria that specifically do photosynthesis. And we all know plants do that, but some bacteria do as well, and they produce quite a bit of oxygen for our environment because they do photosynthesis. All right, well that's all the notes. If you need to go back and stop and pause, go ahead and feel free to do that. But make sure you get all these notes down in your notebook. Thank you very much.